Crystal Radio Group. As the political battle heads south, it may be a northerner who has the upper hand in Virginia, where the Democratic primary is tomorrow. John Kerry coming off a weekend sweep-adding victory in the main caucuses. Party chairwoman Dorothy Mellinson saying motivation is no longer the issue for the Democrats.
Turnout in Maine was huge. It far exceeded any of our expectations. We actually ran out of reporting forms in many communities.
In Tennessee, which also holds a primary, supporters of John Edwards hoping for pay dirt. But in Old Dominion, Kerry wants to undercut Edwards' southern base, as correspondent Peter Mayer explains.
John Kerry's two challengers here, John Edwards and Wesley Clark, hope Virginia and or Tennessee will help slow the front-runners' momentum. Many Virginians could split over the luster of Clark's military record in a state with a big military population and John Edwards' populist appeal and his home base, next door North Carolina.
I'm Bill Vitka.
Hi, folks. This is Larry King. Now, here's something you can take to heart. Welch's Purple Grape Juice. We all know by now that eating at least 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day can give us heart-healthy benefits. But did you know that just 1 6-ounce glass of Welch's Purple Grape Juice counts as a whole serving of fruit? In fact, a USDA study found that Welch's Purple Grape Juice has 3 times the antioxidant power of grapefruit or even orange juice. And as always, it's fat-free, cholesterol-free, and tastes great, too. So, would I start drinking Welch's Purple Grape Juice every day? In a heartbeat.
You know how I've said you're my shining star?
Yes.
Well, happy Valentine's Day. Open it.
Oh, wow. You named a star after me?
It's the best Valentine's gift ever. For $54, International Star Registry will record your star name in book form in the U.S. Copyright Office and send you a personalized gift package. Call the Star Registry at 800-282-3333 or visit starregistry.com. That's 800-282-3333 or starregistry.com.
Valentine, you're my star.
There may be legal fireworks today at the New York trial of Martha Stewart, whose lawyers get their first chance at cross-examining the government star witness. They have the job of discrediting Douglas Faneuil, and former Judge Leslie Crocker Snyder said it may drive a wedge between Stewart and co-defendant Peter Bukanovic, arguing she had no part in any cover-up involving him and Faneuil.
Distance his client, Martha Stewart, from Bukanovic. He's got to put Stewart in a different position. He's got to make it look as if maybe Bukanovic was guilty, but Stewart really didn't know all this.
The Grammys got funky. Outkast claiming Album of the Year, and Beyonce winning 5. R&B's Luther Vandross earning 4, including Song of the Year, Record of the Year taken by rockers Coldplay for the track Clocks. Justin Timberlake, another winner, and on his best behavior, apologizing for the Super Bowl fiasco.
What occurred was unintentional, completely regrettable, and I apologize if you guys are offended.
His halftime partner, Janet Jackson, was a no-show, but even MIA still the talk of the night, even if it was talk about not talking about it, according to Christine Aguilera.
People are bored at this point to still be talking about a boob. We all have them, so, you know.
Think positive thoughts, but don't expect optimism to be a weapon against cancer. Attitude does not improve the chance of surviving cancer, according to new Australian research, which says doctors who encourage patients to keep up hope may in fact be inflicting a heavy burden. It's almost that time for Hearts and Flowers and a warning. Correspondent Barry Peterson.
Pondering a Valentine's gift for your beloved? Here's one to avoid. A husband in northern China was so fearful that his wife might cheat on him, he hid electronic tracking devices in the heels of all her shoes. She discovered them when a broken heel needed repairs and was furious. As the song goes, these boots, bugged or not, are made for walking, and she walked right out of his life.
I'm Bill Vitka.
Hi, my name is Allison, and I met my fiancé Daniel at eharmony.com.
My name's Rob, and I met my wife on eharmony.com.
My name is Brenda, and I met my fiancé Tom on eharmony.com.
There's a reason why couples who meet on eharmony.com are falling in love and getting married. Hi, I'm Dr. Neil Clark Warren, founder of eharmony.com. Successful relationships always begin with broad-based compatibility. That's why at eharmony.com we match you based on 29 dimensions of compatibility.
It helps you to figure out you, then it helps you to find that person that you are most compatible with.
You're learning intimate things about the person right from the very beginning.
There's a depth to eHarmony that the other sites don't have.
Log on to eHarmony.com and see for yourself why more eHarmony.com matches result in marriage than any online dating service. Do it right now and get your $40 personality profile free.
This is NBC Radio News.
The views expressed in the following paid program are those of the host, guest, and callers, and are not necessarily those of AM 1400, WFLL, its staff, management, or its sponsors.
If you're having problems with your credit and you don't want to file for bankruptcy, tune in for the Credit Restoration Consulting Hour with credit restoration expert Bill Lewis.
And good morning. Welcome to the Credit Restoration Consultants Hour. I'm Bill Lewis. Here this morning, Joyce Kaufman is just coming back into town and has taken the morning off. I would like to welcome this morning our special guest, Sheriff Ken Jenne of the Broward Sheriff's Office, and Sergeant Jay Leiner of the Economics Crime Unit. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for having us here this morning.
You're welcome, gentlemen. Of course, the topic today is identity theft. And, of course, now, Miami, Florida, number 4 in the nation for identity theft. What can you tell us about that, Sergeant?
Well, we get various cases. We've had 343 cases of identity theft last year. And normally the process is that people do call in, but what happens is they normally find that they're a victim of identity theft way after the fact when they go for a new car, a loan, or something along that lines. They check their credit history and they find it out, and then it's happened a year before, 2 years before.
All right. Well, in the past, of course, on this show, we've advocated getting in touch with the different credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, concerning placing fraud alerts on the credit reports. But in this day and age, that does not seem to be enough. You need to be proactive. Make sure your identity is not assumed. Sheriff, what is the Sheriff's Office doing to combat identity theft?
Well, I think one of the major things that we're doing is going on shows like this and telling people that it's a problem. It's hard to believe, but 1 in 17 people will be a victim of this. And when that occurs, it's, as Jay said, that it's almost 2 years after the fact. What we're asking people to do is, one, know that we have a economics crime division, and the purpose of that economics crime division is very simple, and that is to tell the public and to have these problems. We coordinate with Secret Service, we coordinate with postal authorities, local police agencies to deal with this problem. The public's got to recognize is that there is a chance, there's an opportunity that you're going to be a victim when it comes to identity theft. In most of the time, many of the times, what's occurring is that we are the ones who are actually giving people the opportunity to victimize ourselves. An example, you get in the mail a pre-approved credit card, and you don't want it, and you throw it in the trash. Well, that person can go and get that. A person who wants to steal your identity can get that credit card. Sometimes you have checks that are already written out. People can steal those. So you have to shred them. You have to recognize that. A lot of people will give just anybody their Social Security. And we've got to realize from 1960 to 1970 to 1980 to 1990, there was an advance in technology. But what's occurred between 1990 and 2004 has been a major, major leap. And what occurs is that off the Internet, off a lot of information, we can actually have our whole life stolen from us. So what we're saying is to be prepared, to recognize that when you don't give out your Social Security number. Don't give out, there's simple things that the public ought to be doing, but none of us do it. And that's our mission here today, and our mission with Jay and Sergeant and the other folks to tell the world that this is a serious problem. And by the way, the average attack on the individual is about $17,000. So it's a serious problem to the economy and to the individuals to get this straightened out. And as Jay pointed out to begin with, sometimes it's 6 months to 2 years later when people find out about it. If someone's not getting a car loan, someone's not getting a house loan, someone's paying their bills on time, it could be a very long time before they discover it.
Yeah, that is the case sometimes, Sheriff, and it does take several hundred hours in some instances to clean up this problem. And, of course, you're forever victimized, whether you have a criminal history record being obtained from another individual who has adopted your identity, or whether they've basically destroyed your credit by making these numerous applications. We all become victims. And, of course, through higher interest rates and other card fees, the general citizens who are not victims have to pay for this crime.
That's absolutely correct.
We are taking calls this morning at 954-315-1670. My name is Bill Lewis with Credit Restoration Consultants, and my special guests this morning are Sheriff Ken Jenne and Sergeant Jay Leiner of the Economic Crime Unit at the Broward Sheriff's Office. Once again, our number is 954-315-1670. Now, in the past, gentlemen, we've discussed issues of identity theft and how to block some of these things. It's interesting to note, Sheriff, that you mentioned the credit card offers. Well, in fact, there are ways to stop these credit card offers from coming in the mail. Whether it's a credit card company, the original creditor, or other banks or loan sources out there, you can opt out of these services. And by simply contacting the national opt-out services of Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, and the fourth little-known credit bureau, Innovus, you can, in fact, stop the mail. 99% of the mail can be stopped within 30 to 45 days by simply dialing 888-5-OPT-OUT. That's 888-5-OPT-OUT. Now, of course, 1 in 17 Americans will become a victim. The question is, when is it your turn? And if you can block this information, reduce the mail, and reduce the incidents that someone can go through your mailbox or check your garbage, you can reduce the opportunities that are out there.
And that's really, you're exactly right. That's what we're doing here, is not saying that it can't happen, but to eliminate every possibility that's there. And you are right. Going with opt-out is the most successful way. But if for some reason you forget that number and don't do it, when you get this material, make sure that you shred it and destroy it. It's the proper thing to do.
Well, I notice here, of course, the Broward Sheriff's Office has come out with some new materials from their Economics Crime Unit, which is basically victim information for those individuals that have had their identity assumed or forgery by theft, credit card fraud, debit card fraud, and ATM card fraud. Sergeant, how can they get these materials if they want to contact the Broward Sheriff's Office directly?
They can call us at 954-321-4255. And these pamphlets are at the district offices. The deputies have them, and we will answer any call that comes in. Most of the times people are confused on what to do, and we try to direct them the best way. A lot of times they'll need a police report to get the identity theft issue started, contact the Federal Trade Commission, and then contact their other credit cards and credit bureaus. And then we give them that information.
You actually do, of course, provide the ID theft manual from the Federal Trade Commission, which is entitled "When Bad Things Happen to Your Good Name."
Yes, we do have that on hand, and we've offer both of these, and additionally other pamphlets, that we have.
And, of course, some of these materials can be received right off your website, Sheriff, at www.sheriff.org.
Yes, and this is important, that not only for this, but for a lot of other things, that if people will go to our website, www.sheriff.org, they can find this pamphlet and find other materials that are on it that are very important. So if someone's listening, think that they've been a victim, know that they've been a victim, are worried about this, we're asking them to go to our website. It's easy to do, and that's www.sheriff.org, and they can get this brochure, this pamphlet, off of the website. And let me tell you something. It doesn't take long to read it. It's easy to understand, and it can protect you.
Now, Sheriff, I noticed in the past the Florida Attorney General Charlie Crist, in conjunction with Guy Tennell, the Commissioner of the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, have come out with a new website themselves, strictly dedicated to identity theft at myfloridalegal.com. And in putting together that website, they offer services much the same as the Sheriff's Office, except on a statewide level for those individuals that are outside of Broward. Now, in dealing with comprised identities, Sergeant, what is your department doing with someone who has a problem with not only an identity takeover, but someone who has an arrest record?
I'm not sure if I understand your question entirely. Are you saying that the individual has been arrested that we're looking at?
Well, actually, your victim.
The victim? Mm-hmm. We have them go to the FDLE website. Okay. We also try to explain to them, like, let's say, a driver's license problem. We provide the numbers. They have to sign what's called basically a not me affidavit, and they have to be filed with the courts. And all this has to be done with the courts. And then once they file it, then we try to assist them to make sure that their history is straightened out.
And, of course, now, Sergeant, they can go through the FDLE website with the Certificate of Comprised Identity, which actually speeds up the process because the Broward State Attorney's Office has been bogged down with these, as they call them, Linda Bell, not me cases. In dealing with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, you can have your prints taken at a local substation and forwarded to FDLE for comparison to the identity theft imposter. And, of course, have your records blocked so in case you are pulled over, you're not, wistfully taken away.
Correct.
But this is very difficult because a lot of times while that site exists and our site exists, people don't know about it. And there's nothing worse than all of a sudden being stopped and having something like this occur to you. And it does occur. And it's one of those things that people have to prepare for. And one of the other reasons, as you think about it, to be very cautious with your identity.
Well, in the past, we've had several issues or calls to this program concerning individuals that have contacted the police departments in dealing with the municipalities. They've either had difficulties in filing reports through lack of knowledge or experience to not wanting to file a report at all, stating it's not necessarily a crime. What is the Broward Sheriff's Office doing to assist those individuals that are having problems at the municipal level in filing reports?
The Broward Sheriff's Office has jurisdiction countywide from corner to corner. The municipalities provide a very, very good service, one that we're very respectful for. But many of the municipalities do not have this occurring very often. As such, sometimes they don't know how to handle it or just do not have the personnel to do it. So we're always there either willing to work with them or take that material. And I think it's very important for people to realize no matter where they live in Broward County, if they call the Sheriff's Department, we will help them either with their local municipal police department or we will help them because a lot of times this is a crime. And a lot of times people could become discouraged. We encourage it.
Well, Sheriff, as you know, 1 in 17 Americans is the victim of some sort of identity theft. Although a lot of these issues occur within the old household, either a former spouse or significant other making application for credit, there are issues as far as making these law enforcement reports. Has the Broward Sheriff's Office come across any problems or difficulties of prosecuting individuals in the same family?
No, none whatsoever at this point.
All right, and Sergeant, as far as the Economics Crime Unit, in identification of these problems, what type of statistics do you have concerning, same household identity theft versus general?
We're not seeing many same household. What we're seeing is more individuals or groups committing identity theft, oftentimes holding the identity that they've stolen for a couple of 6 months, 8 months, and then coming out and using it. There are some that we do have the identity theft within the household, and when we do put our case together, the state prosecutes it.
Yeah, and I think you've got to understand that part of our theory on this is you do have it in the home, one-on-one. But many other times what you have is an organized ring doing this. And you've got to understand that identities are sold sometimes. They're dealt with organized type of crime, with terrorism, and other type of activity. So there's several layers to this because what we think is the potential out there is that this identity theft will take place, that the information can be sold and can be used, and as the sergeant says, it can be 6 months, a year later. This is not someone that's just rushing off to do it, so they create the layers in that in and of itself.
All right, so we should all be proactive, in guarding identities, as far as shredding documents that we get in the mail, as far as contacting the do not call registries and the national opt-out services, reduce the incidence of identity theft, and by doing so, reduce the opportunities and chances of you becoming a victim. Now, we're going to be coming back in a moment on the Credit Restoration Consultants Hour. My name is Bill Lewis. I'm here with special guest this morning, Sheriff Ken Jenne and Sergeant Jay Leiner of the Economics Crime Unit from the Broward Sheriff's Office. We are taking your calls at 954-315-1670. And if you have any questions or concerns for Credit Restoration Consultants, you can reach us in our Davie office at 954-581-5050. We'll be right back.
Lots of merger news this Monday. Two Las Vegas-based casino companies are teaming up. Boyd Gaming is merging with Coast Casino as part of a $1.3 billion deal announced this morning. Vodafone today confirmed that it is pondering whether to make a bid for AT&T Wireless, facing a Friday deadline. A British newspaper says Vodafone could offer up to $40 billion for AT&T Wireless. And PeopleSoft says its board has unanimously rejected Oracle's unsolicited $26 a share bid for the business software maker. PeopleSoft says Oracle's proposal does not reflect the true value of the company. It's back to court day. Martha Stewart's lawyers plan to grill the prosecution's star witness. The defense begins presenting its case today in the trial of former Tyco leader Dennis Kozlowski, and billionaire investor Kirk Kerkorian's lawsuit over the Daimler-Chrysler merger resumes today. S&P futures closed up 2.5 points. The NASDAQ futures up 8.5. I'm Ann Cates in the newsroom at MarketWatch.com.
There is a show you will not want to miss here on 1400 WFLL. Every Monday, you can join Bill Lewis and me, Joyce Kaufman, as we give you all the information you need to know about restoring your credit on the Credit Restoration Hour. From 9 a.m. till 10 Monday mornings, you will learn how to protect your identity from theft, how to determine your credit worthiness, and if it's not as good as you need it to be, find out how to restore it. That's the Credit Restoration Hour, Mondays at 9 a.m., or call Credit Restoration Consultants at their office, 954-581-5050.
Now back to the Credit Restoration Consultants Hour with Bill Lewis and Joyce Kaufman.
And welcome back to the Credit Restoration Consultants Hour. My name is Bill Lewis. Joyce Kaufman is off this morning. I'm here with special guest Ken Jenne of the Broward Sheriff's Office and Sergeant Jay Leiner from the Economics Crime Unit. And we are discussing identity theft issues, and what to do if you become a victim. We're accepting calls at 954-315-1670. In our prior segment, gentlemen, we discussed identity theft and what to do and how to reduce the incidence of possible identity theft in the household. Sergeant, the suggestions of the Broward Sheriff's Office through these flyers, of course, are to contact the U.S. Postal Inspectors, the Secret Service, the Federal Trade Commission, as well as the actual credit bureaus themselves, and telecheck should you have any problems. Do you have any suggestions on what to do prior to becoming the victim?
Well, prior to that, what I would suggest that you do is definitely check your credit history and take a look at how you put your mail out in mailboxes. Oftentimes that red flag that goes up in front of a home is not only a symbol for the postal person, but for the thief that wants to steal your identity. Little things like just even taking your purse out of your car and not leaving your ID in there, your checkbook in there. Carry it with you. Those are some of the suggestions that we tell people. Shred your mail when you're done with it. Shred it. Buy a shredder. It costs $19.95, $29.95, depending on what you want. These are things that you need to do. You need to be proactive. And another issue that we also suggest, because today the Internet is very popular, firewalls. Update them continually. That's very important. And most people, once they get the program, they don't get the update. They figure they have it, so they don't update it.
Well, in fact, Sergeant, most of these programs come with updates for a period of time, do they not?
Yes, they do. And then shortly thereafter, what you can do is you can even buy the update either through the net or you can go to one of the local computer stores and buy them.
Because, of course, in transmitting secure information doesn't necessarily positively mean it's totally secure.
That's correct.
Well, in dealing with the identity theft, I mean, as far as dealing with the credit reports, and order copies of the credit reports at least every 6 months. And in doing so, you're able to learn, of course, if you're a victim of identity theft, as well as if there's any other issues with your credit report that could be legitimate, or other companies placing data on your credit profile that could be in violation of the Fair Credit Reporting Act. But in dealing with the credit bureaus, I mean, in fact, you can get a copy of your credit report every 60 days if there's a hard hit inquiry on the report. If you've been denied credit, or if you have any inquiries on your credit report in the last 60 days, if you're unemployed, seeking employment within the next 60 days, if you're on public assistance, or even in the military, you can obtain a copy of your credit profile. Now, of course, if you're the victim of identity theft, you're in for the long haul. You'll get copies of those reports every 30 days until you're done. I mean, in fact, you can get a copy of your contacted at 800-685-1111. Experian can be contacted at 800-583-4080. And TransUnion can be contacted at 800-916-8800. And, of course, you can be...
Oh, I'm sorry, Bill. I was just going to say one part of the problem that we have in law enforcement, and you have, until someone becomes a victim, they don't understand they should do this. And that's the hardest thing. You know, we can preach, do this every 6 months and do it, because it's absolutely, you are giving the best, the soundest advice whatsoever. But what I'm going to ask is that if for some reason you're not doing what Bill's telling you to do, and that's what you should be doing, but if for some reason, inertia, you don't think it's a problem, I think some of the suggestions to help protect yourself are very simple. Jay mentioned earlier, when the red flag goes up there and you pay your bills through there, I'll guarantee you it's not a red flag just for the postman, but it's a red flag for a lot of nefarious people out there. 2, you and I, when we get our prescriptions, we will keep them and use them, and then we throw them in the trash can. Bill, you can get in serious trouble, because what can happen is someone's going to pick that up. There's no pills in there, but it can be renewable. And so all of a sudden someone's renewing your prescription. They're selling it on the street. It could be OxyContin. It could be a whole variety of pills out there. They're going to take advantage of you, and if the person selling it is found with your prescription, you're going to have a lot of answers to do. So when you're throwing off your prescriptions, make sure you peel it off. I mean, I can't, until I heard this, I never thought about it. I, like you and everybody else, we throw it in our trash. We absolutely throw it in our trash. A lot of us, you know, we keep our bank statements for a period of time, our credit card statements, medical, financial reports, and we file them. After a period of time, we throw them away. Sometimes you throw them away almost automatically. I'm telling you, just like Jay did, shred them. Now, the best advice that I can give is what Bill just gave. That is, call these companies, check on your credit reports on a regular basis. But I have to tell you, if you're going to be lazy, if you're going to have inertia, then when you get that statement tonight, and when you see that bottle, that prescription bottle, I want you to remember this this radio station program, and think of Bill and think about what you're going to do with the bottle. You're going to take the label off it. You're going to shred this material. It's the best thing possible for you, and then you still may get hit, and then you're going to wonder why you didn't do what Bill told you to do.
Well, Sheriff, when it comes down to it, it's common sense. The fact is, you should be shredding these documents. Don't just throw them in the trash can, throw them away. These bottles, crush them up, peel the labels off. I mean, many individuals out there complain, why me? Why did I become the victim of identity theft? When it comes down to it, they've created themselves as a victim. They've thrown out all these documents, their bank statements, these pre-approved offers, and as you stated, Sheriff, the prescription bottles. Someone else is rolling around with their OxyContin, as well as credit cards. Fact is, don't become a victim. Become proactive. Use some common sense. Shred your documents. Order your credit reports at least every 6 months and determine whether or not those inquiries on the report are correct and whether or not there's credit card accounts that were, opened in your name or even utility accounts. I mean, a lot of these same household identity theft are utilities. And, of course, with the children, there's problems. We'll get back to that in a couple of moments. But with the children, you have problems with husband and wife getting a divorce. One of the spouses cannot obtain utility accounts. Next thing you know, the child's got a cell phone, power, everything. Well, my name's Bill Lewis, and I'm here this morning with Sheriff Ken Jenne and Sergeant Jay Leiner of the Broward Sheriff's Office. Gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for coming this morning. We are discussing identity theft. Our number in the studios here are 954-315-1670. And should you have any questions for credit restoration consultants, our number in Davie is 954-581-5050. And remember, Credit Restoration Consultants is a professional paralegal association that specializes in credit restoration and identity theft. Once again, our number is 954-581-5050, and we'll be right back.
This is 1400 WFLL Fort Lauderdale. WFLL. A proud member of the James Crystal Radio Group.
CNN Radio News Update. I'm David Hull. President Bush insists the economy is turning around. He's taking his case to Missouri today, armed with a freshly released and very upbeat White House report to Congress. President opening his salvo in a televised interview with NBC as Dick Uliano reports from Washington.
The president told Meet the Press the economy was turning downward as he took office in 2001. He says the economy was further harmed by the corporate scandals and the 9/11 terrorist attacks. The president says his economic policies are making a big difference and the economy is improving.
President, in that same interview, defended the decision to remove Saddam Hussein, insisting that he acted on the best intelligence available. Democrat John Kerry on the march toward the Democratic presidential nomination, winning party caucuses over the weekend in Michigan, Washington, and Maine. Virginia and Tennessee hold primaries tomorrow. In New York, the government's key witness in the trial of Martha Stewart returns to the stand to face cross-examination. This is CNN Radio News.
What does ex-homicide prosecutor from the Latin Tate case, Ken Padowitz, think about juveniles prosecuted as adults? Want the lowdown on legal issues in Broward County? Ex-homicide prosecutor Ken Padowitz and Trial Lawyer Association President Russell S. Adler speak out on the Adler and Padowitz Law Hour, Fridays 9 to 10 a.m. on 1400 WFLL. Tune in every Friday to the Law Hour, featuring Fort Lauderdale trial lawyers Russell Adler and Ken Padowitz. Call in and join in the discussion about current legal topics and issues. Every Friday morning at 9 on 1400 WFLL.
There is a show you will not want to miss here on 1400 WFLL. Every Monday, you can join Bill Lewis and me, Joyce Kaufman, as we give you all the information you need to know about restoring your credit on the Credit Restoration Hour. From 9 a.m. till 10 Monday mornings, you will learn how to protect your identity from theft, how to determine your credit worthiness, and if it's not as good as you need it to be, find out how to restore it. That's the Credit Restoration Hour, Mondays at 9 a.m. or call Credit Restoration Consultants at their office, 954-581-5050.
Now back to the Credit Restoration Consultants Hour with Bill Lewis and Joyce Kaufman.
And welcome back to the Credit Restoration Consultants Hour. My name is Bill Lewis. Joyce Kaufman's off this morning. We are taking calls at 954-315-1670. And my special guests this morning are Sheriff Ken Jenne and Sergeant Jay Leiner of the Broward Sheriff's Office. We are discussing identity theft and identity theft issues and what you can do to not become a victim. Sergeant, before the break we were discussing particular safeguards to your mail, to your prescription bottles, and the like. What else can you offer in this area?
A big one that I'd like to discuss is when people leave their wallets and purses in their car and their ATM cards. Very often they leave their password to their ATM cards with it, and they become a victim at that point in time when it's taken. And it would behoove them to carry that around, separate their passwords, any passwords. Also, Social Security cards. Don't leave them in your wallet. If you need your Social Security card for anything, bring it with you. Carry it away from your wallet. Because what will happen is very often, especially men are real bad at this. We put it in our wallet, and we just go everywhere with it. And when the wallet's gone, the Social Security number is there, and that's the key that unlocks the door right there.
Sergeant, in your professional position, is there really a need that you carry your Social Security number around with you and not in your head?
No, sir. I know mine by now. So.
and I think, Bill, that's a really a good point. Is that there are a lot of things that are in your wallet. You know, if I look in your wallet, you look in mine, you have several credit cards you may not use. You have identification that you don't use. And you should think about what are you going to need? You may need 1 or 2 credit cards. You may need your driver's license. And beyond that, you really don't need much else. And you may want to think about that when you load up your wallet with every piece of identification you ever have. And that's more common than not. And I'll guarantee you, if I went through this building and checked everybody's identification, they'll say, I didn't even know I had it in there. And that's some of the things that are just common sense. And it goes back to what we were saying, is that the world has changed since 1961. And if you've lived in Florida all your life, it's changed even more dramatically. And what we're saying are the simple, easy things to do. I'll tell you, I bet 90% of the people who have home computers that do so much work on it have not thought about Jay's instructions about going and getting a firewall. Firewalls now are considered to be the big thing for corporations and government to keep terrorists out. But the truth of the matter is there are terrorists out there for individuals who can destroy someone's life or at least make it very, very, very difficult. Jay also suggested earlier, and I want to emphasize this, that go invest in a small shredder. They work. They're relatively inexpensive. Put it there, and so when you get that information, just chew it up, throw it in the trash can, because there are a lot of people who will go through your trash.
Well, in fact, that is a problem. I mean, you should obtain and receive a shredder. I mean, I give out a lot of shredders at Christmas time. BrandSmart had a great special on them, went ahead and gave those out, and everybody loves it. Shred the documents. Make sure that you do not carry the materials or the identification with you, because, as the sheriff states, if you carry everything with you and you lose it, leave it in your car, you lose it, you're through.
Mm-hmm. And how many times have you had someone say that, I lost my wallet? Yeah, I lost my wallet, and oh my God, I don't have any credit cards left, I don't have this or that. The truth of the matter is, even when you're traveling, you should separate the items, just like Jay has suggested there. You ought to think about how do you separate it, how do you deal with it, and it makes a lot of sense. And the trouble is, when you look at this, it's very difficult to prevent it once it starts occurring, and then it's equally difficult to correct it once it occurs. That's why I think this program is so worthwhile. And I think you asked earlier, Bill, what are we trying to do? What we're trying to tell people, which you've emphasized several times, is that 1 in 17 people, that's over 5% of the people, are going to be victims of this. And it is a serious crime. It is a growing crime. What a lot of people don't understand out there, the victims of today are not necessarily the victims of the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. And law enforcement has got to catch up, got to start doing it. That's why we have our website. That's why the Florida Department of Law Enforcement has theirs, because we recognize that this is a new crime in a new century, and law enforcement has got to get it together and make it easy for people. We can no longer say to people, we're not sure it's a crime, it's not a crime. Identity theft is a crime, and the folks out there ought to pick up their telephones, call their local law enforcement, call the Broward Sheriff's Office if they feel like they're victimized, and get an intelligent response from law enforcement.
Well, in fact, you make a good point, Sheriff. I mean, identity theft is a crime. In the state of Florida, the criminal impersonation of another individual is by itself a third-degree felony. And in utilizing another individual's name and personal identifiers for your own use is punishable by up to 5 years in state prison. Now,
and I think, Bill, I want to emphasize that to you. When Bill says a third-degree felony, let me explain what that means. Is that you go to a state, you potentially can go to a state prison for 5 years. That's what that means. It means that potentially you're not going to get a slap on the wrist, but you can go away for a very long time in a very uncomfortable place if you're thinking of doing this. And as law enforcement, what we're saying is to you who are thinking about committing it, we think that this is a serious crime. We're going to act accordingly. And if you're involved with the Broward Sheriff's Office, we'll do everything we can, if you steal someone's identity, to put you behind bars for as long as we possibly can.
Well, in fact, Sheriff, the penalties go up from there. I mean, in fact, if you are a victim of identity theft and the amount taken from you has over $100,000, it is, in fact, a first-degree felony now. And the numbers go down, whether it's $100,000 or $50,000 or $20,000, it's first, second, and third-degree penalties.
Right, and I think this is important, Bill, for people to know. But what's important is if you just steal the identity of someone and don't, get $100 from them, it is a potential felony, and as Bill points out, it gets more and more serious. But what people have to understand out there, if you're stealing from a relative, if you're stealing from a stranger, if you're involved in some sort of organized ring, we're not going to hesitate to go after you, ask the state prosecutor to prosecute you, and do everything we can to put you away for a long period of time. And frankly, that may be 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, or whatever it may be, but it will be a long period of time, so you better think about it, because the old days in Florida and the old days of how to deal with identity theft and how to deal with this electronic things are over. We're saying it's a serious crime. We're going to treat it like a serious crime. You break the law, you're going to go to jail for a long period of time. So those of you that think that they've gotten away with it, they're not going to. And know, and what we're telling the public, that local law enforcement is going to respond to this. The victims out there, we're giving a strong, strong message. If you've got a problem, pick up the phone, call the Broward Sheriff's Office, and tell us what the problem is so we can react to it. And if someone has stolen your identity, your money, we want to know about it. Don't just shake your head and say nothing can be done about it, because we'll do everything in our power to do it. We've got 20 to 30 cases right now and 230 some odd cases last year of this type of thing that we look into. We are asking you, pleading with you, come forward so we can stop this cycle.
Well, Sheriff, in many instances of identity theft in their own household, they're afraid. I mean, you have a spouse or a former spouse that has utilized their children's identity, or at least their personal identifiers, to obtain utility accounts. In fact, the other spouse will find out later on that Mary has utilized, baby Joe's information, and they're fearful of coming forward. The fact is, this could hurt you in the future, as well as the child. I mean, in fact, if you screw up their credit and do not pay the accounts, and I mean, although some of these individuals come up with good intentions, their credit might be subpar, they cannot obtain a utility account, so they use their child's social security number. In fact, there are ways now to block that through Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. By simply contacting the credit bureau and providing the personal identifiers of the child, as well as their name and date of birth, so Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion can block this information. And, of course, the individual actually placing the block for the child would be notified upon any applications or inquiries for credit. So, Sheriff, when it comes down to it, as we're stating here, it's common sense.
Bill, you've hit it. And I think what Jay is saying, but people have a lot of common sense.
Or lack thereof.
Well, but what happens is it doesn't kick in until there's a problem. Otherwise, you and I, by nature, are trusting. Mm-hmm. We throw trash away, and who in the world would think about going through trash? People do. Who in the world would think about going through the eggshells and the coffee grinds to get something? People do. And so what we're suggesting, I know that Jay's had classes. People have looked through dumpsters, and they've come up with this information. It's very common. In steal a wallet, you get everybody. If I steal someone's wallet, more or less, I can get the person's whole background within the matter of minutes.
In this information age, that's true. Jay mentioned earlier concerning firewalls and the protection of firewalls. It's interesting to note in this day of wireless networks that you must and should have a firewall that's constantly updated, because you can just literally drive through a neighborhood and tap into another individual's network. Without a firewall, that's dangerous.
Yes, and I mean, corporations, I deal with firewalls, but I have to tell you, corporations need very, very sophisticated type of firewalls. But I think, like Jay, get a firewall, get it updated, and even if it's not as sophisticated as IBM or the Broward Sheriff's Office or the FBI, it's going to discourage people from coming in. And it's like anything else. When a burglar goes to your – and you've got to look at a firewall like a burglar coming to your door. If that door is locked, may go on to the next one. If it's locked with a very good lock, guaranteed they'll go on to the next one. And that's what a firewall's all about. You've got to consider it like a lock, that people can't get in without your permission.
So when it comes down to it, we just need to exercise more common sense.
Well, that's what this is. And you know something, so many things, and Bill, it's interesting you mentioned that. So many of the victims of crimes that we have have lacked common sense, but it doesn't make it a crime any less. But in this area, when you think about all the things we've talked about, we're not asking you to go out too much out of the way. Call and find out about your credit history, put up firewalls, shred material, destroy prescription bottles, think about what goes into the trash, what you have, and what's in your wallet. Probably the best receptacle of useless information, except someone that wants to do you untoward, is your wallet. You keep everything in there.
This is, of course, as the sheriff's going through our producer's wallet here. She has her driver's license, Social Security card, and 46 other pieces of identity.
But, Bill, I want the record to clearly reflect she gave it to me to go through.
Yes, the record is corrected, Sheriff. But as we mentioned earlier, of course, some of the identity theft materials that are coming out. Recently, the President signed into law the Fair and Accurate Credit Transactions Act, which will assist individuals that are the victims of identity theft clean up their credit quicker and, of course, help safeguard the system as it is now. For instance, the receipts. As of December of 2004, businesses will be prohibited from providing credit card receipts with the full identification number or, credit card number on the receipts with the exception of the last 4 or 5 digits. That's great. The same thing with debit cards. I mean, I go to gas stations all the time that individuals have left their receipts. And I picked up the receipt off the ground, and it's got their full credit card number. And you're like, wow, I got their name, I got their information right here. If I was a dishonest individual, I could make all sorts of money. Mm-hmm. The fact is that these companies will not be able to do that after December 1st of 2004. Additionally, the new opt-out rules that are coming into effect will actually be opt-in. The companies that you deal with must notify you ahead of time prior to selling or giving out your name to a third party, even if they do business with that company. So if it's MB&A, you'd have to still opt in.
Bill, it's interesting you brought up the last 4 numbers. What we've been telling people for quite a number of years now is when you write a check for your credit card, for your bill, put the last 4 numbers. You don't need the whole number. Okay, put that on there. That's good enough. Okay, use one credit card for one major purchase. Use another one for going out. You create like a kind of track. So what happens is if somebody goes to use your identity with that credit card and it's not used or for what it's normally used, it'll tell the credit card company something. They have the tracking programs. They'll call up. That's another form of combating what's going on.
And, of course, if you go outside the norm, if I use my American Express card for $1,000 a month and all of a sudden I make a $5,000 single purchase, that, of course, will flag
Absolutely.
them.
Absolutely. It sends a message to the tracking. You don't normally buy that. What's going on here? They'll call the store up. Okay, then the store will call to speak to you and, in fact, see if you are who you present to be. And if not, then we'll be called.
Which is another reason why you want to destroy your credit card records, because you don't want the individual who has stolen this to know that you normally use a credit card for a particular activity too.
That's correct. And one of the new features also of the Fair and Accurate Credit Transactions Act, gentlemen, is the built-in feature of notifying individuals upon the receipt of bad information. In other words, if the company all of a sudden has a credit card on you and you missed the first payment, okay, they have to notify you that they're reporting bad information on you. And one of the the rules there is if it's a collection agency or creditor or any other particular organization that you deal with, will actually notify you. Now, of course, that's putting the horse before the cart, so to speak, because by then you are a victim. But these are information that you can catch the identity theft a little bit quicker rather than at 7 or 8 months down the line when the bill collector is calling you. So under the new Fair and Accurate Credit Transactions Act, after December 1st, the creditor will notify you upon the first instance of negative behavior.
That's good. Yeah, and that's a very positive thing because that will hopefully shrink that $17,000 amount some.
And, of course, members of the military service would be interested to note that when they're actually in the reserves or on active duty and, say, going overseas, that they can report this to the credit bureaus who will put a temporary fraud and watch alert on their consumer credit profiles at Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion to notify individuals that, listen, this individual is not really available to apply for credit. So if they are, check them out. Jay, let's give the numbers for the Broward Sheriff's Office Economic Crime Division should anyone have an individual problem.
Okay, the number that we can be contacted at is 954-321-4255. And whatever issues that you have, we'll try to answer your questions as best possible and steer you in the right direction. And try to help you handle your problem.
So, in fact, not only will you help individuals that are residents of one of the BSO districts or unincorporated areas of Broward County, should they have resistance or problems from a local municipality, they can contact your office.
Absolutely. We get calls from all over the country.
And you would be able to redirect them.
Absolutely.
Great. My name is Bill Lewis with the Credit Restoration Consultants Hour. I'm here this morning with Sheriff Ken Jenne and Sergeant Jay Leiner of the Broward Sheriff's Office. If you have any questions, our number is 954-315-1670. Should you have any questions for Credit Restoration Consultants, you can reach us at our office in Davie at 954-581-5050. We'll be right back.
Wall Street is off to a negative start to the trading week. The Dow Jones Industrial Average down 23 points, while the NASDAQ is off a fraction. The big mover today is NetScreen Technologies. The network security provider is being acquired by networking gear maker Juniper Networks in a stock swap worth $4 billion. NetScreen shares are up $10.75, a gain of 41%. Pepsi down 35 cents this morning. The soft drink maker revised its 2002 and 2003 earnings upward to correct the overstatement of a stock option expense due to a math error. Pepsi also raised its guidance for the year. Lots of companies and their bookkeepers are parting ways. USA Today reports that more than 1,400 companies either dropped or got dropped by their auditors last year. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average down 19 points to 10,573. The NASDAQ down half a point. The S&P down 1. I'm Ann Cates in the newsroom at MarketWatch.com.
There is a show you will not want to miss here on 1400 WFLL. Every Monday, you can join Bill Lewis and me, Joyce Kaufman, as we give you all the information you need to know about restoring your credit on the Credit Restoration Hour. From 9 a.m. till 10 Monday mornings, you will learn how to protect your identity from theft, how to determine your credit worthiness, and if it's not as good as you need it to be, find out how to restore it. That's the Credit Restoration Hour, Mondays at 9 a.m., or call Credit Restoration Consultants at their office, 954-581-5050.
What does ex-homicide prosecutor from the Latin Tate case, Ken Padowitz, think about juveniles prosecuted as adults? Want the lowdown on legal issues in Broward County? Ex-homicide prosecutor Ken Padowitz and Trial Lawyer Association President Russell S. Adler speak out on the Adler and Padowitz Law Hour, Fridays 9 to 10 a.m. on 1400 WFLL. Tune in every Friday to the Law Hour featuring Fort Lauderdale trial lawyers Russell Adler and Ken Padowitz. Call in and join in the discussion about current legal topics and issues every Friday morning at 9 on 1400 WFLL.
Now back to the Credit Restoration Consultants Hour with Bill Lewis and Joyce Kaufman.
Hey, good morning. Welcome back to the Credit Restoration Consultants Hour. I'm Bill Lewis. Joyce is off this morning. I'm here with Broward County Sheriff Ken Jenne and Sergeant Jay Leiner of the Broward Sheriff's Office Economics Crime Unit. We had an interesting caller during the break, actually, who could not stay over, that was curious as to the fraud alerts and what are the responsibilities of the credit bureaus upon being notified of the identity theft and the identity theft issues. First off, I guess we could start with the Fair Credit Reporting Act. I mean, Section 611 of the Fair Credit Reporting Act requires a credit bureau to investigate any claims of erroneous items that are contained on a credit profile. Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion will place fraud alerts on the consumer credit profiles of an individual upon notification that there is an issue of fraud. And as Jay pointed out earlier, you can go to either Equifax, Experian, or TransUnion, place one fraud alert, and that fraud alert will be sent to all three bureaus. Jay, what else is your office doing as far as in working in conjunction with the credit bureaus or the individual companies, the Federal Trade Commission, or, of course, just forwarding the information to the appropriate parties?
Well, what we do is we speak with the Federal Trade Commission. We talk with them on a regular basis. I have a contact up in Washington, see if anything new is coming out, anything we might be able to steer, the people down here, any new ideas, anything that would come along that would be very progressive. The credit reporting bureaus, we talk with them when we need to discuss certain items, but because of privacy issues, there's I can't really discuss your whole case with them, and they're not allowed to discuss it with me. So they're kind of the last step in the procedure. And then, of course, with identity theft, we also work with in conjunction with the Secret Service and the United States Postal Inspection Service on this. In case things are going through the mail, credit card information that we need, we have this liaison where we work together jointly to attack the problem of identity theft.
Well, in fact, there's been issues in the past as far as Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Of course, any one of these three bureaus will forward your fraud alert to the competing bureaus. It's always been my suggestion, though, to contact all three companies, though, Jay, because in contacting one company, it could be 30, 60, 90 days before that information is forwarded to the Equifax or Experian versus TransUnion. So it's always been my suggestion to contact all three. The call only takes 2 or 3 minutes to enter in the information. So, in fact, by contacting all three bureaus, the moment I hang up that telephone, that fraud alert is on there. Because, in fact, some of these creditors only pull 1 or 2 reports. If I place my fraud alert on Experian, and it takes 30 or 60 days for Equifax and TransUnion to be notified, these individuals could go out and actually apply for credit utilizing the different bureaus.
That's correct. But what we do to do this is we tell the people, contact each one. I even tell them, send a letter out, certified mail. Make sure that it's gotten there. It's another way of having documentation that you have contacted them. Remember, a victim of identity theft, very often it takes quite a while before the credit bureau straighten it out. So that's why we're suggesting to you, write those letters, send it out. It can be the same letter, just change the names on each letter. But if you show the letters, if you take this and you document it, it oftentimes there's a shorter turnaround for you to get your identity straightened out.
But I want to point out also, Bill, is that if you go on the www.sheriff.org site, that how you get in touch with these Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion are right there. Telephone numbers, fax numbers. So I know a lot of people out there are driving their cars. And what I would suggest to you to do is go on to our website. That's www.sheriff.org. It's real easy. It's just sheriff.org. And then with our economics crime unit victim information, it's got these telephone numbers. It's got the sites for Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. And in once again, I think as Bill has been saying, is just think about that. All three are there. You don't have to worry about it. You can get it right from the website, make the phone calls, take the action. It's there. We have postal addresses attached to it. It's a very good thing to do. And while you're there, go over there and look at the brochure. I think what you're going to find is that area is going to be very, very interesting to a lot of people out there.
All right, and of course, Sheriff, we just had a caller a couple moments ago, Jeff in Fort Lauderdale, who couldn't stay on the phone, that was curious as to why everybody asked him for the Social Security number. Doctors, different stores, places that he applies, not for credit, but just basically becoming members of. And, I always find that curious because I do not provide my Social Security number, when in fact the Social Security Administration is one of the few places that I have to actually provide that number to. So, in answer to Jeff's question, you do not need to provide this information. I mean, as far as the doctors and places that you make these professional memberships, it's not required. What is your point on that?
Well, no, I think that you should give as little information as you possibly can. I think it's important for people to recognize when they go in, if they don't have to, if it's not a financial institution, obviously it gives the people more opportunity to identify you, but it also gives people who you don't know the ability to victimize you.
Well, of course, then provide no information at all. I mean, if the doctor requests, state that you do not have a permissible purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I would agree with that, and I think that we're just too quick in giving that information up.
All right, well, we're at the close of the show today, Sheriff. I do appreciate you, Sheriff Ken Jenne and Sergeant Jay Leiner of the Broward Sheriff's Office coming on this morning. This show will rebroadcast Sunday at 10 a.m. right here on WFLL 1400 AM for those of you who would like to listen to it again or receive the information on the show. My name is Bill Lewis, and I'm with Credit Restoration Consultants, and we are a professional paralegal association that specializes in identity theft as well as credit restoration. We can be reached at 954-581-5050. Gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for coming on the show today.
Bill, thank you for having both Jay and I here. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
And Jay, your number at the Sheriff's Office again is?
954-321-4255.
And if there are any issues that cannot be handled through the local municipalities,
please call.
Don't be afraid to call.
Remember to tune in for the Credit Restoration Hour with hosts Bill Lewis and Joyce Kaufman.